Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Wanted to say a few words today about the challenges or the scarcity, I guess, of rock bands, new rock bands anyway. And I'm talking about in, let's say the industry, for example, the charts or whatever. You know, Rick Beato had a great video, I think about a year ago, and he's talked about this a lot, how he's looked at the charts and he was referencing some video by a British guy. I'll put the link to his video there. But how in the 80s, for example, the first half of the 80s, we're in 2025 now, the first half of the decade of the 20s. By the first half of the 80s, bands had held the number one slot in the charts. You know, so many, just tons of times. You know, you think of all the different bands who held the number one song in the country or whatever. Here we are 2025, and I think it was something like maybe three. We're halfway through the decade, and bands are just not a thing anymore. And there are a number of different reasons for that. Rick Beato talks about how we got here. You know, with the even at the beginning in the late 90s, you had more of the producer songwriters coming in, so that bands became more of just sort of like the Archies or the Monkees or whatever, just sort of a created, project that wasn't really, just back in the days where musicians would get together, they would write music together, they would get to know each other, how they play together, you would sync together. It's a band is very much like a romantic relationship. It really is. You've got to commit, you've got to get to know the ins and outs of the other person, musically. And it's just something that people don't have time for anymore, because today's musicscape, right, is just most people can make more money just by doing it solo. They've got all the technology now where they can, even if they don't play this instrument or that instrument, they can just do it electronically, whatever. They can maybe collaborate a little bit, but it's still their thing, and it'll be their YouTube channel, and they'll be putting out the music with their name on it, and they'll be making any money, And to some degree, you do need to follow the new way of marketing, social media. I mean, you can't be a band of any level of success and not, use social media. That's why I'm sitting here trying to build up this channel as I'm even trying to start a band, right? So there is that. But I think also this generation just doesn't know how to play well with others, to a large extent. We are a more isolated culture today, and that's due to the technology. It's post-COVID. It's all of those things. And, just where are the bands? Now, if you're going out your local bar scene, yeah, they'll, especially if you're in a bigger city, you'll have a lot of different bands, cover bands, for example, or bands playing out, in a local scene, sure. But that just depends. It depends on where you are and if you're at a place where that kind of thing is happening. But we're so far removed back in the day when you could just, I love reading biographies about bands, and it's a different thing too when you get a band together when you're younger, right? Because it's your dream, you just want to make it, and you want everybody in the band committed to it. We're not going to worry about jobs, we don't have any family commitments, we're just going to put our heart and soul into making it as a rock band or whatever, You can't do that, right? I'm about to turn 46 here. There's no way. I've got a job, I have a family, I have commitments, I have responsibilities and so forth. But if you really want to make a rock band work, I do think that people my age, rockers my age, do have a little bit of a leg up on this issue, because we remember how to be in a band. We know what it takes, the long-term practice schedules, the long commitment, and we know the importance of getting the right people in a band too. That's why I'm taking my time with this. I'm not just throwing out ads and just getting any old person in and trying out any old person even, Nobody has time for that. I'm contacting old friends, and if I will meet up with a new person, it's got to be through a recommendation and so forth, So, and I've got that coming. You'll meet a drummer friend of mine very soon. But, just rock bands. Where are they? I think that we need to, I think there's a need for it. I think there's a want for it. Even though rock bands aren't super popular now, I think if it was done right, it's got to be, because you look at so many decades that have proven this. That's the spirit of rock and roll. Just 4 or 5 guys, or people, women, whatever, but playing their instruments and playing well together, enjoying playing well together, enjoying rocking, not really looking for some super polished production that will set the charts on fire necessarily, or be really good in radio play, because we're in a different world with that now. We don't need to have radio play. We've got social media. If it's popular, if it gets a viral video or whatever, we're not beholden to the record company or beholden to the local radio stations or anything. A lot of those gatekeepers have been knocked down. And the problem with that is that there's very little in quality control. So you've really got to take on that on your own and really make sure you're getting good quality out there. And then, you know, there's still the sprinkle of luck or the good dose of luck, let's be honest, that's necessary. And it's also a different thing. It looks like a different thing today to be successful in a rock band. You know, gone are the days where you're going to get a huge paying contract from a record company and they'll fund you out on tour and you're going to go on world tours and you're going to be in the studio as soon as you get home and this is your job now, you know, because you have that record contract. That's not so much a thing anymore unless you're already an established, you know, act or a legacy act, you know, or something like that. You know, now it's more, you've got to do everything. You've got to do the music. You've got to schedule your own. If you want to go on a little tour, you've got to schedule that. Of course, there are agents and managers and still publicists and people that you can hire and it'll be easier to get their attention if you've already built a platform, if you've got a bit of an audience and whatnot. So, you know, you can still do some of those things, but it's really on you to do the work, even a lot of the legwork that, you know, back in the day, it was just, you know, if we just strike it big with a record contract, then people come in for you and do all the stuff and you're just the talent, you know, or whatever. That's not a thing anymore. So, and that makes it more of a labor of love, though. You know, that makes it more of, are you doing this because you love it? Or are you just doing this because you want to make a little money? And I am doing this because I love it. I already have a job. You know, if I can make money at it, that'd be wonderful. But I love rock music. I love playing bass in a rock band. Love playing with other musicians, love just the spirit of rock and roll. And I love sharing that with other people. I love playing it live, but I love playing good recorded music that people can listen to on their own as well. So, I don't know, just some thoughts on the status of bands and whatnot. I will come back with some more, maybe focused, you know, specific topics. And like I said, I promise we're going to do some bass covers soon. My semester begins up here where I'm teaching again for the semester. So time is a little limited, but I always wanted to produce at least a video a week, hopefully more, but at least a video, 2 videos a week, just putting some content out there and keeping people updated on what the deal is. Met with a drummer the other day, wonderful. It was an old friend of mine. It was really great to reconnect, and I'm working on reordering a studio space in my home, which I've got room for. I just got to, you know, remodel a little bit and move some things over. And while I'm doing that over the next week or so, we're both throwing out songs for each other that we want to learn or whatever is when we get together and jam and you know, thinking about other musicians we might want to invite in on this as well. So it is happening. You will see progress on it through this channel very soon. But I thank you guys for hanging out and watching these videos. Yeah, I know there are not a lot of you because it's a new channel. And again, as I say, it's always so humbling being having a channel with like 17,000 subscribers and then trying to start a new one like this with maybe I'll get to 100 one day, you know. But I appreciate you guys who are watching and subscribing, liking the videos, comment, all that stuff that helps the channel. Yeah, so share it with anybody you think might be interested. And until next time, we'll just keep rocking.